Good morning, first and second graders. Good morning, first and second graders. Good morning. All right, I'm glad. Does everybody have their ticket this morning? Yeah. Pick it up, let's say them, okay? All right, we'll have to have our ticket to go on the Polar Express. All right, for just a few minutes, I want you to just imagine with me, if you will, that we're going to take a trip to the North Pole. And as we read the story, I want you to just listen and take part. But there are a couple rules, okay? Rule number one, keep your feet in front of you. If you do not and you stick them out, I may step on them. And you may leave here with a pancake when I get done stepping on them. Okay? So keep your feet in front of you, and your hands, don't be sticking them out because I might run into you. I'm looking at the book and not at you, okay? And the elves are doing the same thing, all right? So hands and feet in front of you, set straight forward, and are we ready to take a trip? Yeah! All right, the Polar Express. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets, and I breathed slowly and silently, because I was listening for a sound. A sound a friend had told me that I'd never hear. The ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There is no Santa, my friend had insisted, but I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and I saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest and looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe, and I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. All aboard! The conductor cried out, and I ran up to him. Well, he said, are you coming? Where? I asked. Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express. I took his outstretched hand. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candy with nougat dinners as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa, as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced north. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we would scrape the moon. But the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the snow-covered plains. We crossed the barren desert of ice, the great polar ice caps. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing in a frozen sea. There, said the conductor, there is the North Pole. The North Pole was a huge city, standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories everywhere. Christmas toys were made here. At first, we saw no elves. They are gathering at the center of the city, the conductor told us. That is where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas. Who receives the first gift, we all asked. He answered, he will choose one of you. Look, shouted one of the children, the elves. Outside we saw hundreds of elves As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no further, we stopped, and the conductor led us outside. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large, open circle. In front of us stood nothing else but Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were so excited, they pranced and paced, ringing the silver bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa Claus soon appeared. The elves began to cheer wildly. He marched over to us, pointing to me and said, "Let's have this fellow here." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up. I sat on Santa's knee, and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine. But the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked Santa, he smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from one of the reindeer's harnesses. The elf tossed it up to Santa. He stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "The first gift of Christmas." The clock struck midnight as the elves began to cheer and roar their approval. Santa handed the bell to me, and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeer's names and cracked his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared into the cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost the silver bell in Santa's sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look for it," one of the children said. But the train gave a sudden lurch and began moving. We were already on our way home. It broke my heart to lose that bell. When the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood at my doorway and I waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and began to speed away. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was my silver bell. There was a note found this on the seat of my sleigh. "Better fix that hole in your pocket," signed Mr. C. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father, "it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents hadn't heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell. But as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me as it does for all who truly believe. That is the end of the story. Now, does everybody have a bell? Follow my directions very carefully. Listen very closely. I want everybody to hold your bell up. Don't ring it. Hold it up. Now, when I count to 3, we're going to say Merry Christmas and shake our bells, okay? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas, kiddos. Love you all. Hope you have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too.